conscious of the time, so I'll try and skip through this one a bit quicker, maybe, if you want to move on to the next one. Yeah, so the Northern Periphery and Arctic program, which somebody's probably mostly familiar with, includes these countries, so Ireland, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, Faroe Islands, and Greenland. If you want to go to the next slide there. I suppose the key difference really here in this program, I suppose, unlike Interreg Northwest Europe and Atlantic area, it doesn't include all of Ireland. It's just certain NUTS regions. But I suppose for Ireland, the main change here is that it now includes Roscommon, Cavan, Monaghan, and Tipperary as eligible partners. Now, when I say this is the program area, having said that, there has been partners from Dublin, like from some of the universities and from Waterford IT. So if you happen to be located outside of this organisation or program area, it doesn't mean that you can't participate. And quite often there's a lot of, like, if we take the likes of Chagas, for example, they're a national body, but their office might be outside the program area, but they would still be eligible. So go to the next slide. So just going to talk about the program strategy and priorities. If you want to go to the, so similarly to the Atlantic area program, the Interreg NPA has decided to focus on 3 priorities. So these are strengthening innovation and capacity for resilient and attractive NPA communities. I won't go through all the specific objectives on the slide, but we'll focus on the next one. But the second priority is strengthening the capacity for climate change adaptation and resource sufficiency in NPA communities. And then the third one is strengthening the organisational capacity among NPA communities to make the cooperation, to increase cooperation opportunities. If you want to go on to the next slide. This is just, I suppose, drilling down into the specific objectives for priority 1. So the first one is developing and enhancing research and innovation capacities and the uptake of advanced technologies. And the second one is reaping the benefits of digitization for citizens, companies, research organizations, and public authorities. And then the third one is enhancing sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs and job creation in SMEs, including productive investments. I don't think I'll have time to go in detail, but what I would say is if you go on to Interreg NPA website, they've already submitted the draft program to the Commission. And if you go in there, you will see in their kind of draft terms of reference the types of activities that can be funded. So, and I suppose the reason I'm saying is this because a lot of organizations contact me and say, you know, what kind of project can I be involved in and what kind of activities can be funded? So if you go into the draft terms of reference, you can see the types of activities that are funding. So example, on the first one, 1.1, it's things like facilitating technology transfer across the program area that benefit SMEs, including green technologies. Another thing could be facilitating commonly identified opportunities based on strengths in the program in terms of research and innovation, including smart specialization strategy. So if you do have an idea for a project, I would encourage people to go in and see what the types of actions to be funded. And they also have a list of what they would say expected outcomes as well in terms of how the number of SMEs that are benefited and stuff like that, and upskilling. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So yeah, I won't go through this in detail just in the interest of time, but again, there's 3 specific objectives that under priority 2 here is promoting energy efficiency and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Second one is promoting climate change adaptation and disaster risk prevention. And then the third one is promoting the transition to a circular and resource efficient economy. If you want to go to the next slide again. And then the Interreg specific objective is enhance the institutional capacity of public authorities and stakeholders to implement macro regional strategies and the sea basin strategy, as well as territorial strategies. So I think this NTREG specific objective is a good opportunity, I suppose, for local authorities to participate in a project here. I want to go to the next slide. And the next slide again, please. So as I said, this program, the draft program, has been submitted to the Commission, and it's hopefully will be approved quite soon. And the total budget is going to be 51.5 million, with just under 47 million of this being ERDF, and the budget is going to be split across the 3 priority areas. As I said, in 45% on the first priority in innovation capacity, 45% against climate change and resource sufficiency, and then 10% across the cooperation opportunities. The budget could change slightly, but I don't think it'll change drastically when it's approved by the Commission. One thing I would say about in terms of applying for projects is I know I was involved in a number of NTREG Europe projects, and quite often as the programs develop and the money is allocated under different priorities, sometimes your chances of being able to apply under a certain priority reduces. So now when the program opens, there's full access to all the priorities, so it's a good time to be considering a project. Next slide, please. So I won't go into detail here, but generally the grant rate here is 65%. As Ireland is an EU member state, it'll be essentially 65% for all project partners. I think the big change here, and I just need to double check it afterwards, is I suppose in the last program, SMEs would have been just entitled to 50% grant rate. But I think in the new program, the proposal is that SMEs will actually also get 65%. So that's to try and encourage more involvement of SMEs in the program. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the different steps in terms of how people can participate in a project. Sometimes there's a preparatory call, then there's a main call, there's the approval process, and then the start. And I'm sorry, I probably left out the most important point about the presentation, which is the first call for projects is launching on the 17th of March, and this will be for a main call for projects. So I suppose in the last program, the 2014-2020 program, there would have been preparatory calls in between the main calls, but at the end of last year, there was a bridging call. So it was almost like a transition between the old program and the new one. So there is a list of projects that people are currently working on, which will help them prepare for this main call. So, but I suppose the key message from this slide, which I forgot to include, is that the 17th of March is the opening date for the first call for projects. If you want to go to the next slide. This is the calendar that the JS in the program has envisaged. So as I said, 17th of March is when it opens. I think closes on the 20th of June, as far as I know. The assessment will likely be July and August, and then hopefully there will be a decision in September. And I'm assuming then there will be another call for applications between October and December. That hasn't been confirmed, but this is the kind of proposal that the JS is putting forward. You want to go to the next slide there? I think the program has highlighted that it wants to build on existing results. So the NPA project website has a good resource in terms of, it has like a profile of all the projects from the last program period and a map of results. And if you have an idea for a project, what I would encourage people to do is maybe go on here and do a bit of research in terms of one, make sure that what you're planning to do as a project hasn't been done already. And it doesn't mean that you can't apply if there is something similar, but it's just you don't want to be doing exactly the same thing. You want to be building on it. But I think the map is also, or the map and the website is a great resource for if you're trying to identify project partners. If an organization has participated in an NPA project before, they're more than likely want to be involved in the new program period as well. So I would encourage people to log on and do a bit of research on that. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Sorry. So the main changes really are similar to what David was saying in terms of simplification. The program hopes to have more regular calls, and these will be published on the website. And my colleagues in the Southern Regional Assembly will obviously communicate the calls through emails. There aims to be a larger preparatory projects with longer run times and more use of lump sum. I mentioned the better condition for SMEs, and I think this will be the improved grant rate or co-financing rate from 50 up to 65%. And I think they're trying to make the assessment process quicker as well in terms of how they assess projects. Similar to what David mentioned, and in the proposal for Atlantic area, they're going to use simplified cost options. So wider use of lump sums for things like preparatory projects. So for example, if there's a preparatory project with a total budget of 200,000, that'll just be paid out as a lump sum in terms of having to go in and do the individual costings. And also more use of flat rate in terms of travel, similar to what David was saying, and for the Atlantic area. And so if anyone has participated in a project before, they'll be familiar with the EMS electronic monitoring system. So the project is using a new monitoring and finance system called GEMS, which is essentially like an EMS 2.0, but it's meant to be much more user friendly. And as far as I know, this program, as well as Interreg Northwest Europe, will be using the GEM system. If you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, so